Do you ever struggle to slow down? Slow down. I seriously do. I am the sort of person who is always on the go. I like to be busy. I find that I'm also most productive when I'm busy, but then when it comes time to actually slow down and relax, I have found that I'm not very good at relaxing. I don't know if you can relate, but comment down below with a big yes if you can relate to what I'm saying. But what I've found in life is that you're going to get burnt out, exhausted, and not be able to give your best to other people if you're always going and not looking after yourself. So I have learned that I actually need to take time or make time or schedule in time for intentional rest and for me time or self-care or whatever you want to call it. I often don't like using the word self-care because it feels a little selfish to me, but you know what? Self-care does not have to be selfish. It can mean actually pouring into ourselves and making sure that we are filled up so that we can give out to others. If, like me, you struggle to slow down, I am sharing 14 ways that you can look after yourself. Number one is to read a book, and I love reading, honestly. I used to read so much more when I was younger, but now I try to make it a priority and be intentional with it. At any one time, I could be reading maybe a book about business or a book about faith that would help me grow in that area, or a book about personal development, or any other number of things. But I find just making the time to read a book, whether it's even 20 minutes before bed with a cup of peppermint tea in hand, or on the weekend taking a book down to the beach, I find that it is so relaxing and such a good way to learn, but to also just be. The second thing I like to do is to go for a walk. Now, I love going for a walk with friends, most of all, because I'm extroverted, I'm super social, I love chatting to people, but then I also find that the times when I actually just go for a walk with myself and with my dog, of course, she doesn't really talk too much, so that sort of works out okay, are actually the times when I am relaxed the most and I feel rejuvenated and like I can keep on going, essentially. Sometimes I will listen to a podcast or some music while I walk. Other times I will pray and sort of think about the things that I am grateful for. And other times I won't listen to any music at all, but sort of just take in my surroundings. And it's amazing what you actually notice when you're not connected to other people or you're not connected to social media. So I like sort of taking in everything, the trees, the water, just sort of relaxing and going, God, thank you. Like, life is good. I live in a good place. I am grateful. The third thing I like to do is to work out at the gym. I don't know about you, you may not be into working out and that's totally fine, but for me, working out is so much fun. It's been a while, like it takes a while for it to be a very fun thing, and it's not always fun, but it depends what I'm doing. I have found that one of my favorite classes is RPM, which is cycling to music, and it's so much fun. And I find that honestly, going to my RPM class on a Monday evening, which is actually on in an hour, I cannot wait, is one of the best ways to de-stress. And I also find it super easy because, well, I mean, it's not super easy. We climb some hills and it is exhausting, but I find I don't have to think too much and I don't have to make up the workouts. I just follow what the instructor is doing and off I go. And of course, it releases so much endorphins, so that leaves me feeling super happy after. The fourth thing I like to do for self-care is to journal. Now, when I was younger, I used to keep lots of journals about all sorts of things. I would write about, you know, gosh, the boys I liked, what happened at school, all of those sorts of things. But nowadays, even though I do record some of the things that have happened in my week and the things that I'm grateful for, journaling for me is usually coincides with my Bible study time in the morning, and I will journal what I'm reading, and I will sort of journal what I'm grateful for and my prayers and all of those sorts of things, which leads me to the fifth thing that I like to do, which is spending time in worship and prayer and reading my Bible. Now, talking about self-care, honestly, this is the most important thing that you can do for yourself, is to spend time with God. And spending time with God is what fills you up. And for me, my morning time with God is the best, and I love it being in the morning because I find that I gain perspective for the day and I gain God's perspective for my day, and I can give my worries to God and I can pray over the future of my day and ask God to use me and align my will to his will for my life. So I love starting the day with God. The sixth thing I like to do is to spend time in nature. I'm a big outdoors girl. I do work from home, and I mean, lots of us work inside, obviously, and don't get the pleasure of working outside. But when I can, especially on the weekends, I love to go to the beach and either go for a walk with my husband or just sit at the beach. I guess if I was thinking about self-care, that would be spending time by myself, which I don't always do by myself enough, but I'd like to do that more because I find the beach so relaxing, just hearing like the the pounding of the waves and the wind, and oh, it's just beautiful. And the salt air, it's a lovely way to relax. And of course, you may not have a beach nearby, but that doesn't mean you can't spend time in nature. I mean, get down to your local park or head out into the woods or the rainforest or wherever you live. Just getting out in nature is so relaxing. The seventh thing I like to do is to take a good bubble bath, and I think this is like typical self-care, but it is just such a lovely girly thing to do. And unfortunately, we don't have a bath. It is on my list, like my mental list for a house. When we eventually buy a house, I'm like, it has to have a bath, otherwise I'm gonna put in a bath, because I find it so relaxing. And I know not everyone is a bath person, but I totally am. And whenever we go away, which isn't very often, but if we go away for a weekend or on a holiday, it is a prerequisite to at least stay in one place that has a bath, so I can have a good old-fashioned bubble bath. The seventh self-care tip is to cook something healthy and tasty. I love cooking paleo meals. My husband and I have been doing a lot of those for the last year or two, and especially in more recent times, he's been sticking to that sort of diet. So I have cooked lots of different paleo meals. I enjoy them. They're healthy. I find that it's not so much a diet as it is just a way of living and a lifestyle. And I've found it so interesting to learn new recipes. And yeah, that can be really fun for me. So I don't know, maybe you don't like cooking, but if you do, maybe try out some new healthy meals and spend an afternoon cooking by yourself. Turn on the music and have fun with it. If you have other people to cook for, great. Well, you can give some food to them, but if not, then you've got yourself all meal prepped and ready for the next few days. Number 9 is to do a face mask. I know this might sound really typical and girly, but you know, it's important to look after the inside of ourselves, but we also need to look after the outside of ourselves and our skin. And one of those ways is to spend time doing a face mask or exfoliating and moisturizing, doing all of those sorts of things to make sure that your skin is looking good and feeling good and that it's healthy. Number 10 is to create something new with paint or with clay. Now, I have done this a few times, but it's something I want to do more. I find it super relaxing to paint. I am by no means an expert in this area, and I'm not going to be creating your masterpiece anytime soon, but I find just the simple act of painting like so soothing, and also playing with clay and molding and making things. So I think that's a really fun thing to do for self-care. Number 11 is to grow your own plants or to create a herb garden. I have been wanting to create a herb garden for some time. My husband and I have been talking about that, so we will do that soon. But I do love my indoor plants. Some of them have died in previous years, but I've gotten much better at it, and it's interesting to learn how to look after them and sort of, you know, what you got to do if there's a bad leaf or all of those sorts of things. I think it can be really fun to research that. The 12th tip is to buy yourself some flowers. You do not have to wait for that special guy to buy you flowers. Honestly, I think that we always wait for someone else to buy us flowers, and we don't buy them for ourselves, because when we buy flowers, it's usually for other people. But there is nothing wrong with buying some for yourself. Head to your local flower shop or your local flower market and buy some that you love just for you to brighten up your home. And while you're at it, of course, you can buy a bunch for a friend as well. But I love going to the flower shop, just knowing that I'm buying some for my home and to brighten up my space. Tip number 13 is to visit your local farmers market. I already do this most Saturdays with my husband or with my sister. I will visit the markets and get my fresh fruit and veggies for the week, which is really fun. I haven't actually been by myself, but I know that I could, and I want to try going by myself because I think it would be lovely just to grab a coffee there and to wander around and maybe to talk to the store holders and get to know people, hear their stories and where the produce is from. And I'm sure that, as with anything, there is always so much more to take in when you are doing it by yourself and without any other distractions. And tip number 14 is to watch the sunrise or the sunset. I have watched the sunset by myself, but I don't think I've ever gotten up to watch the sunrise by myself, and I'm adding that to my list of things to do this year. It is so peaceful to take in the sunset or the sunrise, and I personally love doing that at the beach, which is super close to me, but you can do that wherever you are, so join me in committing to do that by yourself this year. If you enjoyed these tips, I would love to hear what your favorite one was. Comment down below and tell me, and of course give the video a thumbs up and share it with a friend, because you never know, your friend might just find it really difficult to unwind and de-stress as well, and might just need these 14 self-care tips so that they can look after themselves too.